Right now, as you're watching this video, there are two versions of you battling for control of your future. One version that makes excuses, waits for the perfect moment, and dreams about success while staying trapped in the same patterns. The other version takes radical responsibility, builds unshakable habits, and creates the life they truly want. The question is, which version will win? I know you're here because you're tired of your own excuses. You're frustrated with starting and stopping, with having great intentions but poor follow-through. You've probably tried countless motivation videos, read self-help books, and made promises to yourself that you've broken more times than you can count. But here's what nobody tells you. Discipline isn't about willpower or motivation. It's about something far more powerful and reliable. What I'm about to share with you goes against everything you've been taught about self-control and success. Most people think discipline is about forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. That's not just wrong. It's the reason why 92% of people never achieve their goals. The truth is, real discipline is about engineering your life so that success becomes inevitable and failure becomes nearly impossible. Throughout this video, I'm going to reveal the 8 psychological mechanisms that the most successful people use to build unbreakable discipline. These aren't just theories. They're battle-tested strategies that have been proven to work regardless of your background, your current situation, or how many times you failed before. But here's the thing, I'm saving the most powerful mechanism for last, and it's something that will completely change how you think about commitment and follow through. I want you to do something right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's the one area of your life where you most need discipline? Don't just watch passively. Engage with this content because your participation will actually strengthen your commitment to change. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll have a complete blueprint for transforming that area of your life forever. But here's what's crucial. Everything I'm about to teach you builds toward one final revelation that ties it all together. Miss that, and you'll have pieces of a puzzle but not the complete picture. Stay until the end, because what I reveal there will be the difference between knowing about discipline and actually becoming disciplined. When someone truly understands that their life's outcomes rest squarely on their own shoulders, something magical happens. They stop waiting for rescue and start creating their own destiny. It's like watching a person wake up from a deep sleep, suddenly realizing they've been the architect of their own circumstances all along. The moment you accept that nobody else is coming to save you, to make your decisions, or to enjoy your discomfort, you unlock a power that's been dormant within you. This isn't about blame or guilt. It's about recognizing the incredible freedom that comes with personal ownership. Think of it like being handed the keys to your own life. Suddenly, you are not a passenger anymore. You're the driver. Most people spend their entire lives unconsciously waiting for someone else to take responsibility for their happiness, their success, their discipline. They're like actors waiting for a director who never shows up to the set. But here's what successful people know. The director, the producer, and the star of your life story is you. When you truly grasp this concept, you will notice how differently you approach challenges. Instead of asking why is this happening to me, you will start asking how can I respond to this. It's a subtle shift in language that creates a massive shift in power. The beauty of accepting responsibility lies in its immediate empowerment. Imagine you're struggling with procrastination. Instead of blaming your busy schedule, your demanding boss, or your chaotic environment, you recognize that your response to these circumstances is entirely within your control. You might start by reading Atomic Habits by James Clear to understand how small changes compound over time. Or perhaps you'll implement the Pomodoro technique, working in focused 25-minute intervals. The key is understanding that your discipline isn't dependent on perfect conditions. It's dependent on your commitment to taking ownership. Here's something that might surprise you. Taking responsibility actually reduces stress rather than increasing it. When you stop trying to control other people's actions and focus solely on your own responses, life becomes remarkably simpler. It's like cleaning up a cluttered room. Suddenly you can see clearly and move freely. You will find yourself making decisions faster, worrying less about things outside your control, and feeling more confident in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. This mental clarity is the foundation upon which all self-discipline is built. Consider the story of a person who consistently arrives late to work and blames traffic. The responsible approach would be to leave earlier, find alternative routes, or even relocate closer to work. Each solution requires taking ownership rather than expecting the world to accommodate their schedule. When you apply this mindset to every area of your life, your health, relationships, finances, and personal growth, you become unstoppable. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You're the creator of your own circumstances. The most successful people in history share this common trait. They see themselves as the primary factor in their own success or failure. They don't waste energy complaining about unfair conditions or waiting for a perfect timing. Instead, they ask themselves, given this situation, what's the most effective action I can take? This question alone can transform your entire approach to life. But here's what's really fascinating. Once you master this foundational principle, there's a specific way to channel this newfound responsibility into concrete, measurable outcomes. Now that you've embraced responsibility for your life, the next step is giving that responsibility direction and purpose through crystal clear goals. Think of goals as the GPS system for your newly claimed driver's seat. Without them, you're just driving round in circles, burning fuel but never arriving anywhere meaningful. The SMART framework isn't just another acronym. It's a precision tool that transforms vague wishes into concrete realities. When you make your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, you're essentially creating a contract with yourself that your subconscious mind can't ignore. Let's break this down with a real example that'll make everything click. Instead of saying I want to be more disciplined, a SMART goal would be I will wake up at 5:30 a.m. every weekday for the next 30 days to exercise for 45 minutes before work. See the difference? The first version is like trying to hit a target in the dark, while the second is like turning on a spotlight and painting a bullseye. Your brain loves specificity because it gives your subconscious mind clear instructions on what to focus on and what actions to take. This isn't just goal-setting theory. It's practical psychology in action. The magic happens when you write these goals down and place them somewhere you'll see them daily. Research shows that people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them than those who just think about them. It's like the difference between having a thought and making a declaration to the universe. You might create a vision board, use a goal tracking app like Habitica, or simply write them on sticky notes placed strategically around your living space. The key is making your goals impossible to ignore, turning them into constant reminders of where you're headed. Here's where most people stumble. They set goals that are either too easy or impossibly difficult. The sweet spot is what psychologists call the challenge point. Difficult enough to require growth, but achievable enough to maintain motivation. Think of it like a video game that's perfectly calibrated. Too easy and you get bored. Too hard and you quit in frustration. For instance, if you currently read 0 books per year, don't set a goal to read 52 books in the next 12 months. Start with 12 books, 1 per month. This creates momentum without overwhelming your current capacity. The time-bound element of SMART goals creates urgency and prevents the dreaded Sunday syndrome. When you say, I'll start eating healthier Sunday, that Sunday never comes because there's no pressure, no deadline, no accountability. But when you say, I'll prepare healthy meals for lunch every weekday for the next 2 weeks, you've created a specific time frame that demands action. You might invest in meal prep containers, download a nutrition app like MyFitnessPal, or even hire a nutritionist for guidance. The deadline forces you to take immediate action rather than postponing indefinitely. What's particularly powerful about SMART goals is how they create a feedback loop that builds confidence and momentum. Each time you achieve a goal, your brain releases dopamine, reinforcing the behavior and making you more likely to set and achieve future goals. It's like building a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. You will start to see yourself as someone who follows through on commitments, which fundamentally changes your identity and self-perception. But here's something even more intriguing. Having clear goals is just the beginning. The real transformation happens when you start building the daily systems that make achieving those goals inevitable. Self-control isn't about white-knuckling your way through temptation. It's about creating systems that make good choices automatic and bad choices inconvenient. Think of it like designing your own personal autopilot system. Once it's properly calibrated, you don't have to constantly fight internal battles because the right behaviors just happen naturally. The most disciplined people aren't necessarily the ones with the strongest willpower. They're the ones who've engineered their environment and habits so that discipline becomes effortless. It's like swimming downstream instead of constantly fighting against the current. The foundation of self-control lies in understanding your personal triggers and patterns. Maybe you always reach for junk food when you're stressed, or perhaps you scroll social media when you should be working. Instead of judging these behaviors, become a detective studying your own patterns. Keep a simple log for 1 week, noting when you lose self-control and what preceded those moments. You might discover that you're most vulnerable when you're hungry, tired, or feeling overwhelmed. This awareness is pure gold because you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Once you've identified your patterns, you can start implementing what psychologists call implementation intentions, basically pre-planned responses to specific situations. For example, if I feel the urge to check social media while working, then I will take 3 deep breaths and write down one task I need to complete. This isn't just positive thinking, it's rewiring your brain's automatic responses. You might also try the 20-second rule. Make bad habits 20 seconds harder to do and good habits 20 seconds easier. Hide your phone in another room. Keep healthy snacks at eye level, or lay out your workout clothes the night before. Here's a game-changing technique that most people overlook: the power of micro-habits. Instead of trying to meditate for 30 minutes daily, start with just 2 minutes. Instead of committing to an hour-long workout, begin with 10 push-ups. The goal isn't the activity itself. It's building the neural pathway that says, I am someone who meditates, or I am someone who exercises daily. James Clear calls this identity-based habits, and it's incredibly powerful because you're not just changing what you do, you're changing who you are. Each small action becomes a vote for the type of person you want to become. The environment you create around yourself either supports or sabotages your self-control efforts. If you want to eat healthier, don't rely on willpower when you're standing in front of an open refrigerator full of tempting foods. Instead, stock your kitchen with nutritious options and remove the junk food entirely. If you want to read more, place books in every room and put your TV remote in a drawer. Your environment should make good choices obvious and bad choices invisible. This isn't cheating. It's being strategic about your success. What's fascinating about developing self-control is that it's like a muscle that gets stronger with practice, but it also gets tired with overuse. This is why successful people don't rely on willpower alone. They create routines and systems that preserve their mental energy for the decisions that truly matter. They might wear the same type of outfit every day like Steve Jobs, eat similar meals, or follow strict morning routines. By automating the small decisions, they preserve their self-control for the big ones. But here's what's really interesting. Even the best self-control systems fall apart without one crucial element. At most people completely ignore. Time management isn't really about managing time. It's about managing energy, attention, and priorities in a world designed to scatter your focus in 1,000 different directions. The most successful people don't have more hours in their day. They've simply mastered the art of protecting their most valuable resource from the endless parade of distractions, interruptions, and time wasters that consume most people's lives. Think of your time like a precious investment portfolio. Every minute you spend is an investment that either moves you closer to your goals or further away from them. The first step in effective time management is conducting what productivity experts call a time audit. For 1 week, track exactly how you spend every hour of your day, just like you might track expenses when budgeting. You will probably be shocked to discover how much time disappears into activities that don't align with your priorities. Most people think they're busy being productive when they're actually busy being busy. There's a massive difference. You might find that you spend 3 hours daily on social media, 2 hours watching TV, and only 30 minutes on activities that actually advance your goals. Once you know where your time currently goes, you can start implementing the Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. This principle suggests that 80% of your results come from 20% of your activities. Your job is to identify that crucial 20% and ruthlessly eliminate or delegate the rest. For instance, if you're building a business, that 20% might be client acquisition and product development, while the 80% might be busy work like organizing files or checking emails obsessively. You might use tools like Rescue Time to automatically track your digital activities, or try time blocking techniques where you assign specific time slots to specific tasks. Here's a calm intuitive truth that most people resist. Saying no to good opportunities is often more important than saying yes to them. Every yes is automatically a no to something else, and if you're not intentional about your choices, you'll end up living someone else's priorities instead of your own. Warren Buffett once said, "The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything." This doesn't mean being antisocial. It means being selective about commitments that align with your goals and values. The most effective time managers understand the concept of deep work, extended periods of focused, cognitively demanding activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration. Newport's research shows that the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task is becoming increasingly rare and increasingly valuable in our economy. You might designate specific hours for deep work, turn off all notifications, and create a physical environment that signals to your brain that it's time for a serious focus. Some people use the Pomodoro technique. Others prefer longer blocks of 90 to 120 minutes based on natural circadian rhythms. What separates time management masters from everyone else is their understanding that time is finite, but energy and focus can be optimized and renewed. They schedule their most important work during their peak energy hours, batch similar tasks together to minimize context switching, and build in recovery time to prevent burnout. They also understand that perfectionism is often the enemy of productivity. Sometimes done is better than perfect. They might use productivity systems like Getting Things Done GTD by David Allen, or the Eisenhower Matrix to prioritize tasks based on urgency and importance. But here's something that might surprise you. Even perfect time management systems crumble without the right mental foundation. Resilience isn't about being tough enough to never fall down. It's about developing the mental agility to bounce back faster and stronger each time life knocks you off course. Think of resilience like a rubber ball. The harder it hits the ground, the higher it bounces back. Most people approach challenges with a fixed mindset, believing that their abilities are set in stone. But resilient individuals understand that every setback is simply data, every failure is feedback, and every obstacle is an opportunity to develop new capabilities. This shift in perspective transforms problems from roadblocks into stepping stones. The foundation of resilience lies in what psychologists call cognitive reframing, the ability to look at the same situation from multiple angles and choose the most empowering interpretation. When you lose a job, you can frame it as a devastating failure or as an opportunity to find something better aligned with your values. When a relationship ends, you can see it as proof that you're unlovable or as valuable information about what you need in a partner. The facts remain the same, but your interpretation determines whether you become stronger or more fragile. This isn't about positive thinking. It's about realistic optimism based on evidence and possibility. Resilient people have developed what researchers call stress inoculation. They deliberately expose themselves to manageable challenges to build their capacity for handling larger ones. It's like going to the gym for your mental and emotional muscles. You might start by taking cold showers to build tolerance for discomfort, practicing public speaking to overcome fear of judgment, or setting challenging but achievable goals that stretch your capabilities. Each small victory builds confidence and proves to yourself that you can handle more than you initially thought possible. Here's something that might challenge your current thinking. Resilient people don't try to eliminate stress and challenges from their lives. They develop better relationships with them. They understand that stress isn't inherently bad. It's your body's way of preparing you for action. The key is distinguishing between productive stress that helps you grow and toxic stress that breaks you down. You might practice mindfulness meditation to develop awareness of your stress responses, use journaling to process difficult emotions, or work with a coach or therapist to develop better coping strategies. Apps like Headspace or Calm can provide guided meditations specifically designed for stress management. The most resilient individuals have what psychologists call a growth mindset. They believe that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. When they encounter failure, they don't see it as evidence of their limitations. They see it as information about what needs to be adjusted or improved. They ask questions like, what can I learn from this? And how can I do better next time? Instead of, why does this always happen to me? This mindset shift is so powerful that it can literally change your brain's neural pathways, making you more adaptable and resourceful over time. What's particularly fascinating about resilience is that it's contagious. When you develop a resilient mindset, you naturally inspire others around you to become more resilient as well. You become the person others turn to during difficult times because you radiate calm confidence and practical optimism. You might read books like Mindset by Carol Dweck or Option B by Sheryl Sandberg to deepen your understanding of resilience principles. You could also practice gratitude daily, focusing on what's working in your life rather than what's missing. But here's what's really interesting. Even the most resilient mindset needs the right external conditions to thrive. Your environment to silently shaping your behavior every moment of every day, often in ways you don't even realize. It's like having an invisible coach that's either encouraging your best habits or sabotaging your efforts without you knowing it. The most disciplined people understand this principle and deliberately design their surroundings to make success inevitable and failure nearly impossible. They don't rely on willpower to overcome a poorly designed environment. They engineer their space to work with their psychology rather than against it. Think about the difference between a cluttered, chaotic workspace and a clean, organized one. In the cluttered space, your brain is constantly processing visual noise, making it harder to focus and easier to feel overwhelmed. In the organized space, your mind can relax and direct its energy toward the task at hand. This isn't just about aesthetics, it's about cognitive load. Every object in your visual field requires a tiny bit of mental processing power, and those tiny bits add up to significant mental fatigue over time. You might try the one-touch rule, When you pick something up, either use it, file it, or throw it away immediately rather than setting it down somewhere else. The people you surround yourself with are perhaps the most powerful environmental factor of all. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," and research consistently supports this claim. If you're surrounded by people who make excuses, complain constantly, and avoid challenges, you'll unconsciously adopt similar patterns. But if you surround yourself with people who take responsibility, pursue growth, and embrace challenges, their mindset becomes contagious. You might need to gradually distance yourself from negative influences while actively seeking out mentors, joining mastermind groups, or participating in communities aligned with your goals. Technology can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy, depending on how you configure it. Your smartphone, for instance, can be a powerful tool for learning and productivity, or it can be a constant source of distraction and dopamine addiction. The key is being intentional about your digital environment. You might remove social media apps from your phone and only access them on your computer at designated times. You could use website blockers during work hours, set your phone to grayscale to make it less visually appealing, or create separate user accounts for work and personal activities. The goal is making technologies of your goals rather than driving your attention from them. Physical environmental cues are incredibly powerful because they bypass your conscious mind and trigger automatic behaviors. If you want to exercise more, lay out your workout clothes the night before and place them where you'll see them first thing in the morning. If you want to read more, place books in every room and remove or hide devices that compete for your attention. If you want to eat healthier, reorganize your kitchen so healthy foods are at eye level and processed foods are hidden or removed entirely. These might seem like small changes, but they leverage the power of environmental psychology to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. What's remarkable about environmental design is that it works even when you're tired, stressed, or lacking motivation. When your willpower is depleted, you'll automatically default to whatever your environment makes easiest. This is why successful people spend so much time and energy crafting their surroundings. They understand that the environment is working 24/7. Even when they're not consciously thinking about their goals. You might read Atomic Habits by James Clear for more insights on environmental design, or study the concept of choice architecture to understand how small environmental changes can produce big behavioral shifts. But here's what's crucial to understand. Even the perfect environment won't help you if you're not tracking whether it's actually working. What gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed gets improved. This isn't just a business principle, it's a fundamental law of human psychology and achievement. Most people set goals with great enthusiasm, but then operate in a feedback vacuum, never really knowing whether they are making progress, stagnating, or actually moving backward. It's like trying to navigate without a compass or GPS. You might be moving, but you have no idea if you're heading toward your destination or wandering in circles. The most successful people are obsessive about tracking their progress because they understand that measurement creates awareness, and awareness creates the opportunity for course correction. The key to effective progress monitoring isn't just collecting data. It's collecting the right data in a way that actually influences your behavior. You don't need to trap everything. That leads to analysis paralysis and measurement fatigue. Instead, focus on the vital few metrics that directly correlate with your most important goals. If your goal is to improve your health, you might track daily steps, hours of sleep, and servings of vegetables rather than obsessing over every calorie. If your goal is to build a business, you might track daily revenue-generating activities, customer acquisition costs, and customer satisfaction scores rather than vanity metrics like social media followers. Here's something that separates amateurs from professionals. Professionals track leading indicators while amateurs only look at lagging indicators. A lagging indicator tells you what already happened, like your weight, your bank account balance, or your test scores. A leading indicator predicts what's likely to happen, like your daily calorie intake, your savings rate, or your study hours. If you want to lose weight, tracking your daily food choices and exercise minutes is more useful than just stepping on the scale once a week. The scale tells you where you've been. Your daily habits tell you where you're going. The most effective tracking systems are simple, visual, and emotionally engaging. You might use a habit tracker app like Habitico that gamifies your progress. Create a simple spreadsheet with color-coded cells, or use old-fashioned pen and paper with checkboxes and charts. The key is making your progress visible and celebrating small wins along the way. Jerry Seinfeld famously used a wall calendar and a red marker to track his daily writing habit. Each day he wrote, he put a big red X on the calendar. After a few days, he had a chain of X's, and his only job was to not break the chain. This visual representation made his progress tangible and created momentum. Regular evaluation sessions are just as important as daily tracking. You might schedule weekly reviews to assess what's working, what's not, and what needs to be adjusted. During these sessions, ask yourself powerful questions. What patterns am I noticing in my data? What obstacles keep appearing, and how can I proactively address them? What small changes could I make that would have the biggest impact? This isn't about judging yourself harshly. It's about treating yourself like a scientist studying an interesting experiment. You're gathering data, forming hypotheses, testing new approaches, and iterating based on results. What's particularly powerful about consistent monitoring is that it creates a feedback loop that naturally increases your motivation and accountability. When you see your progress visualized, your brain releases dopamine, reinforcing the behaviors that created that progress. When you see areas where you're falling short, you can address them before they become major problems. You might use tools like Google Sheets for simple tracking, apps like Strava for fitness goals, or Mint for financial goals. The specific tool matters less than the consistency of measurement and the willingness to act on what the data reveals. But here's what's absolutely critical. All the tracking and measuring in the world won't help you if you don't have the one thing that ties everything together. Daily commitment is the invisible thread that weaves all your discipline strategies into a coherent, powerful force for transformation. It's not about grand gestures or heroic efforts. It's about showing up consistently, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when nobody's watching. Think of daily commitment like compound interest for your character. Small, consistent deposits that seem insignificant in the moment but create extraordinary results over time. The difference between people who achieve their goals and those who don't isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's the willingness to honor their commitments to themselves day after day, regardless of how they feel. The foundation of daily commitment lies in understanding that motivation is unreliable, but systems are bulletproof. Motivation is like the weather. Sometimes it's sunny and energizing. Sometimes it's stormy and depleting. But it's always changing. Successful people don't wait for motivation. They've built systems that work regardless of their emotional state. They've created what researchers call implementation intentions, specific if-then plans that remove decision-making from the equation. For example, if it's 6 a.m. on a weekday, then I will exercise for 30 minutes, regardless of how I feel. This isn't about being rigid. It's about being reliable to yourself. Here's where most people stumble. They confuse perfection with progress and abandon their commitments the moment they have an off day. But daily commitment isn't about never missing a day. It's about never missing twice in a row. It's about having a minimum viable dose, the smallest possible action that still counts as honoring your commitment. If your goal is to write 1,000 words daily, but you're exhausted, write 100 words. If your goal is to exercise for an hour but you're swamped with work, do 10 push-ups. The key is maintaining the identity of someone who keeps their word to themselves, even when the execution is imperfect. The most committed people have learned to separate their feelings from their actions. They understand that feelings are temporary visitors, not permanent residents, and they don't let temporary emotions derail long-term commitments. They might feel tired, unmotivated, or overwhelmed, but they act according to their values and goals rather than their momentary emotional state. This is what psychologists call emotional regulation, and it's one of the strongest predictors of success in any area of life. You might practice mindfulness to observe your emotions without being controlled by them, or use cognitive behavioral techniques to challenge thoughts that undermine your commitment. What's fascinating about daily commitment is that it creates what researchers call behavioral momentum, the tendency for consistent behavior to become easier and more automatic over time. Each day you honor your commitment, you're not just accomplishing a task, you're strengthening the neural pathways that make future commitment easier. You're literally rewiring your brain to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who can be trusted, someone who does what they say they'll do. This identity shift is incredibly powerful because it influences every other area of your life. The secret to maintaining daily commitment isn't willpower. It's designing your life so that keeping your commitments becomes the path of least resistance. You might prepare everything the night before, eliminate decision fatigue by creating routines, or use accountability partners who check in on your progress. You could read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg to understand the science behind habit formation, or study the concept of keystone habits, single behaviors that naturally trigger positive change. In other areas of your life, remember, these mechanisms collectively support the claim that discipline can be systematically developed, though empirical evidence varies and additional scientific validation would strengthen this approach. Did you feel that shift happening as we went through each strategy? That's your brain literally rewiring itself for success. But here's the truth, watching this video was the easy part. The real transformation happens when you take what you've learned and applied to your life starting today. Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Look, I've given you 8 powerful mechanisms for building unshakable discipline. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. The people who will actually change their lives are the ones who pick one strategy from this video and implement it before they go to sleep tonight. Which strategy spoke to you the most? Which one made you think, "This is exactly what I need, here's what I want you to do," and this is where the real magic happens? In the comments below, I want you to make a public commitment. Tell me which strategy you're going to implement first and what specific action you're going to take in the next 24 hours. Don't just say "I'm going to be more disciplined." Be specific. Say something like, "I'm going to set up my environment by removing all junk food from my kitchen tonight," or "I'm going to write down 3 SMART goals before I go to bed." But I need to challenge you on something. How many times have you watched videos like this, felt inspired, maybe even took some notes, but then went back to your old patterns within a week? If you're serious about change, and I mean really serious, then you need to stop being a consumer of information and start being an implementer of transformation. This channel exists for people who are done making excuses and ready to make real changes. We dive deep into the psychology of success, the science of habit formation, and the strategies that actually work in the real world. If that's you, if you're ready to stop playing small and start building the life you actually want, then hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because here's what I know about you. You wouldn't have watched this entire video if you weren't serious about change. You have everything you need to succeed. The only question is, will you use it?